Right. Hello, everyone, officially, and welcome to the very first DGN Network Enhance Webinar of 2026. Also crazy to think that January is almost over, but we're really excited to be here today and kick off the year with today's webinar, which is titled The International Year of the Woman Farmer, Taking Root and Growing Legacy. And we are really excited to give some insight on what International Year of the Woman Farmer is, how DGN is interacting and playing a part of that celebration, and then also how you can get involved with it as well. If you're new to our Enhanced Webinar program, welcome. DGN offers webinars that are open to the public, non-members, members, men, women, all are welcome. But of course, official DGN Network members get some special perks, like a free webinar on your birthday. More on that to come. But I'm Amanda Kohls, formerly Borkowski. I am the DGN staff lead for our Enhanced Webinars, and I just want to kick off today with some housekeeping, a couple of announcements, and then we will get right to it. So just a couple of notes about interacting today. I think it's going to be a very conversational webinar and lots of info. So throughout the webinar, we really do encourage you to use the chat feature to ask questions or leave comments throughout the entire webinar. You can also unmute yourself and ask questions that way as well. If you're worried about interrupting, there is a raise hand feature on Zoom that you can use, and then either myself or someone on the DGN team will help make space for you to interact. And then if you'd rather just hold on, we will have time at the very end of the webinar for just an open air Q&A time, so you're welcome to interact at that point as well. And if you would like to remain anonymous for any reason, you also can direct message me any questions you would like to have answered. And then something that's really important with our Enhanced Webinars, I say this every time, but it is so true, is that we really love being able to see you during these webinars. And all of our presenters really appreciate it too. It's a lot better than just talking to a blank computer screen. So if you're able and comfortable, I really do welcome you to turn your video on. It doesn't matter what you look like or where you are. This is a space that you can join without judgment and truly be a part of today's conversation. Awesome. I see some people popping on. It's great to see you all. Hi, Sarah. Two Sarahs. Lynette, welcome. All right. So then I do have a couple of DGN Network announcements I'd like to share with you. So remember how I mentioned DGN official members get some pretty exclusive perks? Well, here is exactly how to make sure that you're on the list. DGN membership is completely free, it's fast, and it's the easiest way to start your year off right. We have a huge lineup of things for 2026, and we don't want you to miss a single update, discount, or event invitation. So a link should be in the chat right now for you to join if you are not an official member of DGN already. It only takes a minute to ensure you're plugged into this network for the whole year ahead and beyond. If you can't click that link right now, if you're on the go or you're calling in, no worries. You can head to DGNNetwork.com and hit the join button later. And if you're not quite sure if you're an official DGN Network member, if you do receive our emails, and you should have gotten one yesterday about this webinar, then you're an official member and you're good to go. But if you did not get those emails, then I would say go sign up and update your email that way. And then also, very exciting for this year, we are now less than a year away from our 2026 Forward Together National Conference, which is going to be taking place October 27th through the 29th of this year in Lexington, Kentucky. So make sure you're writing that down, saving the date. This is our premier event for connection and growth, and we're really excited to go to Lexington this fall. We're currently calling for sponsors and speakers to help share the sessions and support the vision for 2026. So if you have a story to share or you want to put your brand in front of hundreds of dairy women, head to DGNNetwork.com and you can submit your interest there. A link has also been added to the chat. So if you work for a company that would benefit from having a presence at a conference like this, or maybe you've heard an amazing topic or speaker last year at another conference that you think would be a great fit for our conference, we want to hear about it. So you can go to that link and fill out as much information as you can. And then also keep a close eye on your email and on our social media channels for more sneak peeks and registration details coming soon. All right. And now we have a great group of people here today presenting, and I just want to take some time to give quick little introductions to them all before we kick off. So kicking us off today will be Mary Knigge. Mary grew up on her family dairy and cash crop farm in Omro, Wisconsin, and now works with Dairy Farmers of America in Washington, D.C. Mary spends her time talking with legislators and government officials about the many issues impacting the industry, partnering with other industry partners, and just being an advocate for dairy farmers. And Mary is also the vice president of Dairy Girl Network currently. Then we also will have Laura Daniels joining us. Laura is a farmer, coach, consultant, and agriculture advocate. For 15 years, she served as the general manager on her dairy, Heartwood Farm, in charge of day-to-day operations. And now she advises fellow farmers and business owners in the areas of team building and strategic planning with Hitch Consulting. Of course, Laura also founded Dairy Girl Network back in 2013 and remains an integral part of the organization now as well. And then I'm Amanda Kohls. I am the executive officer with Dairy Girl Network. I'm based over in the Milwaukee area and kind of do a bunch of freelance marketing opportunities and have been with Dairy Girl Network for, 10 years now, and just really enjoy fulfilling our mission and serving dairy women across the nation and beyond. And then we also have Chelsie Voorhees joining us, and Chelsie was raised on a 6th-generation row crop farm in Kansas. Her passion for agriculture began at a young age and has shaped her career ever since. Chelsie brings a strong background in storytelling, content development, and digital media, all rooted in her deep love for agriculture and empowering women. So a lot of great voices here joining us today. And with that, we are going to go ahead and get started, and I am going to hand it over to Mary, who is going to give us just a little bit more detail about what the International Year of the Woman Farmer actually is.
Great. Thanks so much, Amanda. And I want to start off by saying there are few things that this Wisconsin farm girl gets more excited about than multiple inches of snow coming to Washington, D.C., but it's happening this weekend. But one of those things that gets me more excited is talking about the International Year of the Woman Farmer, because it is so important for our industry. And so I'm thrilled to kind of kick things off and level set us and talk about what this is and why it matters and why it's so important that DGN is taking the role that they are right now. So it's great to be here with you all today. And let's get started here, right? The International Year of the Woman Farmer is a global moment set aside to recognize, celebrate, and support women who farm, women who grow food, protect the land, care for animals, and keep rural communities alive. Often while working off the farm, balancing various leadership roles and community and farm family responsibilities. Today, as we embark on this special year at DGN, we are thrilled to once again, but this time with some added momentum, shine the light on those stories that have too often gone unheard, women farmers. So I want to take a little step back and talk about who is doing this and where it came from. This designation comes from the United Nations. The UN, and forgive me if you guys know this already, but I just want to make sure that we're all on the same page here. The UN is an international organization made up of nearly every country in the world, including the United States. Its role is to bring nations together around shared challenges, things like food security, protecting the land and water, economic stability, and pushing for human rights. While some of these topics may feel far removed from daily life on the farm here in the US, the UN's work often shapes global priorities that directly affect and impacts agriculture, agricultural trade, research funding, and rural development. So why does this matter here in the US? Because US farmers don't operate in a bubble. Our markets, supply chains, conservation programs, and agricultural research are all deeply connected globally. And I don't need to remind anyone on this call that US dairy farmers produce way more delicious dairy products than the US consumer can eat. Those international markets matter to the success and continued growth of our industry. When the UN highlights women farmers, it helps elevate their role not just internationally, but also here at home, informing policy conversations, influencing agricultural programs, and reinforcing the idea that women's leadership in agriculture is essential to a stable food system. At its heart, the International Year of the Woman Farmer is about visibility and value. Women make up a significant share of the agricultural workforce, yet their contributions have historically been under-recognized. This year shines a light on the reality that women aren't just helping on the farm. They are the farmers, the decision makers, innovators, and problem solvers that make many of our farms successful year after year. It's also about equity and opportunity. Women farmers often face barriers that men don't. There are still countries in this world where women cannot own land or face significant barriers to ownership. Places where access to credit is not guaranteed, where access to training, seats at decision-making tables are just not available. This year encourages governments, agricultural organizations, and communities, including those here in the U.S., to take a closer look at those gaps and work towards practical solutions to closing them. There are several organizations that plan on celebrating and having activities around the International Year. Here in Washington, D.C., we're readying a congressional resolution to promote and highlight the important work of women farmers and recognize the UN Declaration. Other organizations will be having women's conferences and highlighting women's stories. This is really a time for the Dairy Girl Network to shine. This is and always has been our mission, but now we're going to have a lot more organizations fanning this flame, and I'm thrilled about that. For women farmers themselves, the International Year of the Women Farmer is a chance to tell your story. We are going to talk more in depth about this later on the call, but we're inviting you to share your own experiences, learn from one another, and celebrate the pride and resilience that comes with this work. Most of all, this year is a reminder to women involved in agriculture, your work feeds families. Your knowledge sustains the land and protects it for future generations. Your leadership shapes the success and growth of this community. The International Year of the Woman Farmer isn't just a title, it's a collective acknowledgement that women farmers have always been essential and that the future of farming depends on supporting them fully. In closing, I wanted to share a quote from Krista Harden, President and CEO of the U.S. Dairy Export Council. I recently heard her talking about what the work that USDEC is doing to prepare for the International Year, and I found it pretty inspiring, and I think you all will too. So Krista Harden said, whether women are doing the back-bending work in the fields, on the farms, on the ranches, or the mind-bending work around the kitchen table, office tables, or board tables, all of those women's contributions to producing our food really matters. I couldn't agree more. With that, I'm happy to take any questions, but I will kick it over to Amanda, and I look forward to continuing this conversation with you all today.
Man, that quote from Krista just really hits home. That is some powerful stuff, and from a gal who has really helped lead the charge and bring this to fruition. So that was really awesome. Mary, thank you for sharing a little bit about what this looks like from a global scale and here at home. So if anybody does have any questions about big picture International Year of the Woman Farmer, pop them in the chat, and we'll make sure that we get to those as well. And now I'm going to take some time along with Laura to talk about a little bit how Dairy Girl Network is celebrating the International Year of the Woman Farmer specifically, and how we're, kind of throwing our hat into this celebration and shining a light on our members. So where it all came from, we got together for our annual stakeholders meeting at World Dairy Expo this past fall with a group of our board and industry partners, true believers, and other individuals like that. And oh my gosh, the ideas were just flowing about how Dairy Girl Network can participate. And through getting so many great ideas from that, taking it back to our board and to a committee that's helping lead this charge, and then our staff, we decided that sharing the incredible stories of women in dairy here at home in the U.S., where a majority of our members are, was the most important thing that we could do to be a part of the celebration. And so it's a real honor being able to highlight Dairy Girl Network members and just women in dairy here at home during this global celebration. and really focus on legacy, leadership, and just the general experience of dairy women and sharing their stories from their point of view, and also sharing the stories of their loved ones as well. So with that, I am going to hand it over to Laura for a little bit, and she is going to just tell us a little bit about the vision and the goals of taking root and growing legacy.
Yes, thank you, Amanda, and thank you, Mary, for kicking us off with such a great overview. As I am explaining the mission and the vision for this program, many times it's hard to connect it back to where the big idea came from. And Mary, you did such a great job of solidifying that so that we can see where there are wonderful attachment points for Dairy Girl Network. And I hope you can all see that already. Like, we need to be a part of this. It makes sense in every way. And Amanda mentioned how we had a great listening session, and we've been talking to the board, and the staff is supercharged about this project. And so taking all of that and putting it into an overview of how we can interact with this. And you're going to hear us say it many times today, but taking root and growing legacy, that is the way that Dairy Girl Network is going to interact. We are going to be gathering the stories of our members and how they have done just that, how they are growing their own legacies and where their roots come from. And I've already had the honor of interviewing the first 3 women whose stories we will be telling. And I have to say, 2 of them are with us. Sarah Doherty, as well as Laura Lee Schultz, are with us today. And so we must ask them later to give some ideas on how the interview felt from the interviewee perspective. But I wanted to get us started by just reading the host introduction. When we do these interviews, we're going to be editing them, and we're going to be kind of slicing and dicing them in many ways, and print articles as well as different video and reels and other ways to share the story, which Amanda and Chelsie are going to tell you a lot more about. But I wanted to read the host introduction because I think it does a great job of helping you all see how we are going to be gathering these stories. So today's conversation is part of Taking Root and Growing Legacy, a Dairy Girl Network storytelling project celebrating the International Year of the Woman Farmer. Each interview in this series highlights one incredible dairy woman, her story, her family, her farm, and the values that have taken root in her life and leadership. While every woman's path is unique, together these stories form a living legacy of strength, care, and courage in dairy communities across the nation. As you share your story today, think of this as an interview, an invitation really, to reflect on what shaped you, what grounds you, and what keeps you growing. We're here to celebrate your real experiences, your leadership, and your legacy. And for everyone listening, take the time to reflect on your own story, the moments that defined you, the resilience you've witnessed in generations before you, and the legacy you're helping to create in your own life and community. I think that does such a great job of setting the tone for these stories that we are going to gather. And so far, they have been amazing. So we just wanted to put this up on the screen so that you had a chance to just see in writing, again, taking root, growing legacies. The goal is to collect as many of these stories as possible. And also, we hope that the stories we've collected will live on beyond this year. Some of this content for Dairy Girl Network is going to be evergreen. We're going to have dozens of amazing stories of dairy women, and we hope that we'll be able to continue to use those. I just want to highlight the last part here. At the core of this series are the powerful stories of real women whose lives reflect both the heart and the hard work of dairy farming, their grit, generosity, and commitment on family farm and community. I hope as you see these words and you hear a little bit more of how we are describing this project, you can see what an amazing synergy there is between our Dairy Girl Network vision, mission, and values, and what we know we are going to find as we gather these stories. This is a perfect opportunity for us to be a part of the fabric that is being woven by the overall International Year of the Woman Farmer Project. We hope that Dairy Girl Network, coming out of the gate strong and being early in creating these stories and promoting them, is going to be a great model for not only our partners within Dairy Girl Network, and we're going to have some opportunities for those organizations that are our true believers and our partners to come together with us. But we're also hopeful that other segments of agriculture are going to say, look at the dairy farmers. They're doing such cool stuff. We can do that too. And by the end of the year, we will have been a spark plug that causes the additional highlight on literally hundreds and hundreds of women farmers across the US. Laura Lee, when I interviewed her, said something that I know is going to end up in part of the story that we tell. I hope it's in a reel already, Chelsie. We haven't had a chance to talk about this, but there's one moment in the interview where she says she was being interviewed by a publication, and then it was played on the TV, right? It was a TV interview, and they called her dairy farmer, not woman dairy farmer. They just called her dairy farmer, and how important that was to Laura Lee, because she hadn't actually looked at herself that way in the same way, but seeing it there helped her absolutely believe that it's true, because it is. And every one of these stories, we're going to find nuggets like that are true to hundreds and hundreds of our members. And I hope that our members are inspired by this. They see themselves, they take more heart in what they are providing to their dairy community. This isn't just about sharing stories beyond our choir. This is about sharing the stories of strength to our choir as well. And anyway, that's a little bit more about the vision that we have for this program. And Amanda, I'm going to turn it back over to you.
Perfect. Yeah, Laura has been the host for our first set of interviews, and it has been really cool to see how different each story is, and where passions lie, and just where storytelling takes us, right? We can come in with a script, but it really is each individual who leads us to what is an important piece of their story that we can really dive into those golden nuggets on. So each story with that is going to have a little bit of a uniqueness to it, right? And that's something we're really excited about in this campaign. And you can look forward to that. So it won't be, the same questions over and over every time. Each story will definitely have its unique vibe, leads, and all of that. And so just, Laura said we're going to have a bunch of different ways that you can enjoy these stories, whether that be that long form written article. There are going to be reels and all sorts of cool stuff that Chelsea's going to get to in a little bit here. But there are going to be multiple platforms where you're going to be able to find these stories. Of course, they're all going to be housed on dairygirlnetwork.com, which again, Chelsie will run through in a little bit, but they're going to be all over our socials. If you're a member, you're going to get the emails about them. We anticipate some national publications to pick them up as well. So lots of really good stuff there. And You know, we have kicked off this campaign. Obviously, it's the first month of the year. We're in full swing, but this will be a 12-month campaign storytelling series. And we are excited to do that for the next 11 and a half months. But with that, we will be taking nominations for women that either you think or yourself could be a great story to share during the Taking Root and Growing Legacy storytelling campaign. And so, again, we'll get into this a little bit more, but I want to get your gears turning on, do you know someone who would be great to share their story? Do you have a story that you would like to share a little bit more in depth? Or maybe it's a loved one, maybe it's your mom or your grandmother who helped shape you or shape your own story. So we do have an open call for nominations for individuals to potentially be featured in the Taking Root and Growing Legacy campaign. And Chelsie will walk you through exactly how you can go about that. And that nomination form is going to be open for quite a while. But, you know, we are hopeful that we are going to get a bunch of new voices and new faces and new stories to share in the Dairy Girl Network fold in honor of the International Year of the Woman Farmer. And so with that, Laura, can you tell us a little bit more about like what participation is going to look like throughout that process?
Yes, definitely. And the link to the nomination form, Brittany did just add it into the chat. So be sure and copy that, and be sure that you think through who you would like to nominate. And you can, my hope is that we have so many nominations, it will be impossible for us to get to them all. And in that event, what we're going to do is we're going to read through the applications, and then as many as we can, we're going to do a short meeting with them through Zoom, usually 20 to 30 minutes, and we're going to hear a little bit more about their story. We might be able to make some shorts. We might be able to use that content in order to share more stories. And then we're going to select a certain number that will go into the long form. And so you'd have a 20-minute short meet and greet and learn a little bit more about the program for the nominees and hear a little bit about their story. And then if they're chosen, they're going to go into a 1 hour. Sometimes it might be an hour and 10 minutes, right, Laura Lee? And that is where we have a list of people who will be doing those interviews, not just myself. I think Connie is on. I think Connie is going to be helping with those and a few others as well. And so then in the long form 1 hour interview, we're going to be asking a lot more questions. We're going to be looking for the thread of the story that we can share beyond Dairy Girl Network, and also, as I said, within Dairy Girl Network. And I would just also want to say that this is a very relaxed interview. Both the short one, as well as the 1 hour, none of it is going to be used beginning to end. All of it will be able to be edited. And because our team at Dairy Girl Network will be writing these stories and editing the video, anything that somebody tells a story that maybe, not that this has happened so far because it hasn't, but sometimes you really get into telling your story and you might tell a part that oh my gosh, I don't want the whole world to hear that I said that. A difficult uncle or a difficult neighbor. And we will honor that. We just want you to know that all of this will be comfortable for you, the interview, as well as the process of creating your story from it. So I think it's important that as you encourage people to accept a nomination, or as you nominate them, you can say, hey, this is going to be pretty low key. They're going to do a good job of making sure you look great, and that your story, the golden nuggets of your story are incorporated. So I definitely wanted to mention that this is going to be very comfortable for anyone who we do interview. And Amanda, I'm trying to think, what else do we need to add there? Participation in the interviews themselves. What else do we need to add?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing there is we really have set this up so that when we are doing these interviews and prepping the interviewees, that we've got all the bases covered. We've got a great list of things to take into account for how your video should look and where you're placed. And like Laura said, when we do that prep call in the beginning of the interview, we'll physically walk through that and make sure everybody looks and sounds absolutely fabulous. And just like Laura said as well, we really do take into account the interviewees' perspective of what they want shared. So they do get final write-off on the types of reels we're going to share and what the final story looks like. So they really get to be involved in the entire process throughout all of this. And it can be very personal. And so we want to make sure that we get that right. And so, Laura, I think you got everything well there.
Right.
Awesome. And so, you know, we've kind of dived into how we are sharing these stories through Dairy Girl Network, and Chelsie is going to go through even more of that here in a little bit. But there's a couple other pieces of how Dairy Girl Network is interacting with the International Year of the Woman Farmer. So we are going to have a hub on our, or we do have a hub on our website. But within that hub, we also have a space where we can amplify the voices of other organizations that are taking part in this, right? I've had quite a few calls with organizations in the last couple of weeks, and you know, been like, oh, you're so excited about this. And there's still a few that are like, oh, I haven't heard about it yet. And then there are so many more that have things in place. And like Mary said, conferences, events, webinars, other storytelling campaigns. And so we thought it was important that we make sure that we have a space where all of those can be captured. And that way, if someone does have interest in diving even deeper into this or looking for more resources, that they can find that there. So between Dairy Girl Network national partners and just other organizations in dairy that are doing cool things to celebrate this year, we are amplifying their voices on a hub on our website. And again, we'll get to a little bit more of that in just a minute. There's some cool stuff coming up that Chelsie is going to talk about. But one final thing I want to make mention of is the opportunity to get involved in this campaign through a sponsorship level. So we have some great groundwork in place here. We have totally created a system for doing all of these interviews, and putting together some really great content. And there is a lot of opportunity for industry companies to get involved with us on this. And so more information will be available on our website. But if you know a company that you think either A, has some great individuals they work with that might be great to nominate, or they're just looking to get involved and celebrate the women in dairy of the industry that they support, and they might have interest in working with us to sponsor a story and being involved in that regard, this is a really great opportunity to kind of put and associate a name to something that is already solid in place and having some really great products already going out there. And so being involved that way with Dairy Girl Network is also an opportunity for businesses too. With that, Laura, before I kick it off to Chelsie, anything to add?
I was just going to say that we'll shout out to Connie and Steel Pro, because they are one of our out of the gate sponsors. So that is fabulous. And also, I wanted to say that if there's organizations or companies who know they have a member who has a story to tell, let us do the work. I think that's the real value of partnering on this. Is we can do the interview, we can have our amazing staff write the articles and create the short reels, and then give that to you, and you can put that through all your social media channels. And I think this is a really great opportunity for companies that might not have all the resources to do all this, to partner with us so we can do that legwork. Also, we have the finesse of telling the stories of dairy women. We can be trusted to put those stories together with the heart that Amanda had already referenced. So that was the only thing that I had to add, Amanda.
Perfect, Laura. Well, really good. Well, now that I've alluded to it a bazillion times, we are going to have our communications coordinator, Chelsie, hop on, and she is going to really give you the lowdown of where things are showing up, and especially how you can get involved too from a more personal level as well.
Thanks, Amanda. And thank you, Laura and Mary, as well. You've done such a fantastic job. I feel energized just listening to them speak and all the fabulous quotes and the stories that I've had the pleasure of reading so far that will come out with the world very soon. So I'm really excited to dive into the nitty-gritty. Let me share my screen here real quick and talk about what DGN is doing as a whole to promote these stories, but also how you can participate and be involved right from your home, your office, your farm, anywhere, because all dairy women are important no matter how you are diving in to your story, and have that amplified on a global stage. We've always known that women in agriculture are the backbone of the industry, that really have multiple roles and are so multifaceted. But this just gives us a chance to celebrate together, amplify on a global scale. And in my opinion, there's no better way to do that than digitally, where we can connect with people all over the world that we would not be able to usually have a conversation with if we didn't have the technology to do so. So I'll really dive into our plan as we go into taking root and growing legacy, like we already have started with Laura Lee's story. So glad she's on here to join us today. And then also our new hashtag and how you can get involved, even outside of the stories that we are doing long form content with or the interviews that Laura talked about. We would love to amplify anyone who wants to be engaged with us, who is online, and using the same things that we're using to share these stories. Let's see here. So they've kind of alluded to everything that I'm going to cover here in the beginning, and then we'll dive a little more into the details. But as Amanda and Laura have both shared, this is a year-long campaign. It's going to be on multi-platform. So you'll see Dairy Girl Network on social media from LinkedIn, Facebook, and Instagram, where we will be sharing little snippets from these stories as well as the long-form content, actual videos from the interview, which is always so fun because you can see the passion and hear the woman's voice, really feel like you get to know her, as well as our hub on the website that we'll take a look at here in a little bit. When we call it a hub, it's really because there's so much information housed there. Not only is it the long form content and the stories of the women, it's what Dairy Girl Network is doing to show up for International Year of the Women Farmer. It's the place to nominate other women or yourself to hopefully be featured in our story or just connect with us. And also a place where we have a storytelling toolkit, just tips and pointers and things to help elevate and tell your story online as well. Every woman's story is so important that we're just really excited to hopefully be the spark that lights that fire, and gets you telling your story online. This campaign is really just built for that visibility and that participation. Dairy Girl Network already does such a good job of being a community online and really connecting women together who, like I said, wouldn't always have the opportunity to meet in person, to leave the farm and do these things. But online, that really gives us the place where we can dive in, hear these stories, see how we relate in ways to make you feel not alone in the work that you're doing as a woman in agriculture, specifically dairy. So we'll take a little bit of a look at what DGN specifically is doing. So each month there will be two stories with two different women. We're doing a really good job of sharing this content, and yes, it intermixes, but really giving each woman their own spotlight all throughout the month. And so we are so fortunate that we can actually do two women a month. The feature stories will each have their own long form content on the blog. And that is where you can read a full story. I think it does such a great job of encapsulating that whole hour-long interview and really getting into the details. Then from there is where we take on social media, where you'll see the reels, the actual videos, a longer post, quotes from women, and just special tidbits on our stories, on our feed, all of the places that you already see DGN show up, but gives you an opportunity to share, really engage, and learn more about these women and their journey. So we've done a really great job of making it so when you are in your feed and you're scrolling, you can tell that that's an International Year of the Woman Farmer post from DGN very quickly. It's really warm, lighting, inviting, with a soft pink palette, still leaning into our normal colors. You'll see a lot of photography. We're so fortunate that the women that we're highlighting share lots of photos with us. As you can see in Laura Lee's photo example on the screen, that truly show the diversity that dairy women have, whether they're in a barn or in DC. So that was really exciting to share all of those. And then the reels, like Laura highlighted on, I think are the most important aspect. They really show the authentic side of the person that we're highlighting. And they also will have a recognizable feel, so that you know this is part of our celebration for International Year of the Woman Farmer. With that, I'm going to go on to our hub just so you can be a little more familiar with everything that we're doing. So when you go to dairygirlnetwork.com, in case you don't have the page saved, it's very right at the center for you to see where our hub is. Here is where you have links to everything that we've discussed so far. These are the Taking Root and Growing Legacy stories. So that will be awesome. We'll dive into that a little bit later to just see the faces of the women, read each story easily. They're really a nice short read that really gives you a look into the women's lives, their journey, their legacy, outside of the snippets that you'll see on social media. There's also the spot to nominate someone or yourself to be featured, that Amanda discussed earlier. The storytelling toolkit, which we'll really dive into the details here soon. And then an opportunity for partner and industry initiatives that you can look at there as well. As you can see, here's just another good example of the branding and how the look and feel will be for us. With that, I'm going to look at the stories a little bit. We're fortunate to already have one up of Laura Lee's, but when you go to this page, just a little overview of what we're doing with each story, and then a clickable link that's recognizable with the name and the face to dive into those stories. As you can see, it's a great blog cadence, really awesome quotes, and I know that the first time I read this story, I was very moved and could feel the connection through a screen, of relating my life to it and the same things that I felt. Even though our stories are very different, we have a lot to relate to. You can also scroll through different media. Like I said, we have so many pictures of each woman, which is really awesome, and really just feel like you get to know them and their story. I know we've talked about it a little bit, but just to reiterate where you can find all of these things, the DGN website is always going to be the best part to see every last detail of this, and just finding anything that you need with all of the links. For short snippets and shareable content and places to interact with, tell your friends, tell your work, anything. The short clips, the quotes, the social media post highlights of each story, and just International Year of the Woman Farmer as a whole is a great place to find us on LinkedIn, Facebook, or Instagram. We also utilize email e-blasts. There is exclusive content we're hoping to share there. So like Amanda said earlier, this would be a great time, if you're not a member already, to join that free membership so that you can really see the deeper recaps, maybe things that you're not seeing on social media, to just keep working on the impact that we will have over the next year. And then, of course, the short form video that will also be worked into all three of these avenues that we've discussed already. I think it's just the best place to share that behind the scenes peek into each woman's story, I, through the screen when I'm reading, can feel the connection, but watching those videos makes me feel like I'm in the room with them, right there, relating, having a conversation with a friend. So we're really fortunate to have those. And we'll talk a little bit later about the toolkit that we have so that you can share your own story on your own terms, in the same ways that we are, in a highly effective way that we're seeing digitally. With that, we'll dive a little bit more into the toolkit. One thing I haven't hit on yet with our social media is a hashtag where we can find the content. We also highly encourage you to tag Dairy Girl Network in any of your International Year of the Woman Farmer content. Even if you are not a featured interview or long form website content, we want to share your story. We want to post it on our stories, interact, share with our audience, so that they can really see the impact of this next year. We know women have already been doing the things from the farm to the boardroom to at home. But this is really just a place to really showcase that, elevate the stories, and engage in a community together. So the hashtag is IYWF small x DGN. So that's our way of combining the International Year of the Woman Farmer with Dairy Girl Network. That way we can elevate your story and also see the presence that dairy has within women in agriculture. Our storytelling toolkit will help you confidently share your story. Um, it's so easy for us as women to think that maybe the work that we're doing is not as hands-on, it's not as important, and sometimes because it's our day to day, we don't find it personally that special because we've been doing it for so long. But I can attest that you sharing your story not only can be relatable to other women in the industry or in the world as a whole, but is very special and is something worth celebrating, as we can see for International Year of the Woman Farmer. Primarily, this would be on social media, but also shareable at events, blogs, local media, lots of really great tips that the staff has put together. The biggest thing with telling your story, and what I think is so important, is making sure it's authentic. You don't have to have a professional camera. You don't have to be model ready with hair and makeup and editing or any of those things. We want to see you in your real life every day, the ins and outs of your role. So don't feel like it has to have this perfect camera moment in order to tell your story. I think the realness is what makes it very special in such a community online. Our toolkit will include prompts, caption ideas, ways to start off videos so that they know that you're also working with DGN and celebrating International Year of the Woman Farmer, just video tips as a whole, small little things that can make a big difference in the quality of content, therefore being more elevated online. Like I said, behind the scenes, proud milestones, legacy work, telling your grandmother's story because she never had the chance to, real reflections on things that have changed your past. Those are the kind of things that are so important to share and uplift, and what we're really leaning into as we look back at the stories that we're sharing, even on our website and the longer form content, we know that each one will be this a little different. Not all the questions will be the same. The things that are important along each woman's journey are different. And so we would really love to see the same things from you online. Like we already talked about, please be sure to tag Dairy Girl Network and use the new hashtag. That makes it easiest for people like me to find it online so that we can help elevate it, and also just be another hub through those channels for people to find content as they're using the app. Um, with that, if you are using the hashtag and tagging us, please know that your story will more than likely be reshared throughout our platform, maybe various times of the year. And by doing that, you're kind of signing off and giving us the okay to do that to elevate your story. And last but not least, the things that we've talked about before, self-nominations and nominations are highly encouraged. So, in addition to sharing your story online through your own platforms, please still nominate yourself so that everyone on the staff sees that. I'm going to open the toolkit now so you can be a little more familiar with it, but I'm sure that it's dropped in the chat as well, and will be followed up after this webinar. You can download the actual toolkit while you're on our website too to save to your devices, which is really awesome. It really just talks about the recognition of what's happening with International Year of the Woman Farmer, highlighting that there's no right or wrong way to share your story. That's the beauty of taking root and growing legacy storytelling campaign, that every experience, every perspective is important and does matter during this celebration. So don't feel like if you're not seeing something that you would like to share reflected in our content, that it's not worth sharing. A lot of with the opening videos or statements in your posts, we highly encourage you use language like, as a part of DGN's Taking Root and Growing Legacy Storytelling Series, I would like to share XYZ, just so that make sure we're finding that content and making your users familiar with what we're amplifying at International Year of the Woman Farmer. These are just a couple of guidance questions, maybe things that would spark interest in what is truly special about your story. And then, like we talked about, tips for the great content, everyday moments, behind the scenes, people and places, proud moments, the legacy. Women have always been important in agriculture, and they will always continue to be, even as our roles shift and evolve. So I know that almost all of you have probably already thought of someone, another woman along your path who has really inspired who you are today. And those stories are worth sharing as well. Then with those things, there's also little things like photo tips, video tips, caption ideas, and just remembering the different tags and hashtags to use while sharing that on there. We also highly encourage you to tell your friends, tell your coworkers, anyone about our nomination process, or nominate those people yourself so that we can see their story. But downloadable file here. If it's not working for whatever reason, just scroll down, same thing right here. And just really great tips for always remembering to share your story. There's room for all of us online, and we would love to hear from you. With that, those are all of the details I have to share of the campaign. I'd love to take any questions, and hopefully see your face or your nomination online soon.
Thanks for all that really great information, Chelsie. That was a very wonderful in-depth view of exactly how people can expect to see this show up this year and how they can get involved. And I want to really make a note to differentiate the different ways that you can share your story with Taking Root and Growing Legacy, just to highlight exactly what we've been saying and what Chelsie mentioned as well. So you can go ahead and nominate someone to be formally recognized in our Taking Root and Growing Legacy campaign. But we can only highlight 24 women this year, unfortunately, and we know there's a lot more stories than that. So by sharing your own story in whatever capacity you find is a great way for us to also click share on a post or a video as well, and share that with our audience too, as well as you reaching your own community and beyond. So a couple different ways to get involved there. But with that, lots of really great stuff. I want to open it up if anybody has any questions at all around International Year of the Woman Farmer as a whole, around DGN's Taking Root and Growing Legacy campaign, or just kind of how to get involved. You are welcome to unmute yourself now, or the chat feature is still up and running. There's some conversations going on over there. But any questions? I'd also offer this time, if anybody knows of any other organizations doing cool things, to feel free to drop that in the chat as well.
I guess I have a quick question. I wondered if you had given any thought to doing like a sit-down conversation with a group of ladies on a couch or talking together. Sometimes it's nice to have a conversation with people that you can bounce ideas and stories off of.
Yeah, no, I don't think we've had specifically that idea. And that's something we're excited about too, is like we have this plan and we're kicking off here and we know we're going to share these stories, but we've got 11 more months to kind of figure out exactly too what else we're going to do. And so that's a good idea, Sarah. I'll definitely take that back.
Go to a good coffee shop owned by a dairy woman.
We know where there's one of those, don't we, Sarah?
I do know where there's one of those. Darlington, probably others too, but yep.
Love that. Really good. Any other questions or comments even like that?
I have a request, Amanda. So we have a lot of really fabulous dairy women on this call. And I also just want to extend it to, if you're working with dairy farmers, you are a dairy woman with a story also. This is not just people on farm, because so many of you are inspired by a woman on farm, or a woman who was your mother, your grandmother, your great-grandmother, or a customer that you have now who continues to inspire you. There are many different ways we can incorporate these stories. And I wonder if we could get a few volunteers to be the first ones to share their story in their social media channel with the toolkit that the team has created. And I just think it would be so good for Chelsie and everyone to have some people using it, because we could learn a lot from you of what parts of the toolkit worked well and where maybe we could have some adjustments to make it a little more user friendly. But we'd like to really get a few stories rolling through the toolkit early in the year as well. So be brave and tell us if you're willing to share your story, and put your name in the chat or reach out directly to Amanda or Chelsie.
Really wonderful idea. Yeah, like Laura said, if anyone has interest, throw it in the chat. You can reach out to me individually. That's a great idea, because I am sure that this toolkit and some of the other things within the hub will evolve as the year goes on. Natalie, I see you in here. I feel like I'm going to have to call on you to potentially be one of our guinea pigs for that. Awesome. Any other questions or comments? This was a really great day chatting about a really great movement and celebration. Thank you, Laura, Mary, Chelsie, for joining in on the conversation today and helping share that. Let me just get this up as we take off. So as usual, you'll get a recording of this webinar sometime next week. And yeah, please feel free, interact, share your story, nominate a dairy woman for our Taking Root and Growing Legacy campaign. We're really excited to see what we can share over the next 12 months. It's a rough weekend here across most of the United States, so please be safe, stay warm, and we will see you all next time. Thank you, everybody.